What's up, wigglers? Should I call you that? Now we'll stick with comrades. What's good, comrades? Welcome back to Ricky Mouse. It's been quite a while, actually. It's been so long that when I went to go get my ring light for this video, there was cobwebs on it. Just how it be. I do like my outfit, by the way. I got a new belt. It has a nice buckle and everything. I don't know if you can see that, but... Anyways, today we're going to be doing a long overdue video that I mentioned when I did the High Five Studios video. Jetlag Productions, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Not to be confused with Golden Films, though they did produce this blonde... The Little Mermaid that I remember too. From little boyhood. Anyways, Jetlag Productions was like an American mockbuster film studio. I put air quotes because they're not like Sparkplug Entertainment, where they just made terrible 3D animated ripoffs of children's movies. They also technically made some unoriginal films. Like there's this one called Leo the Lion, King of the Jungle, which is obviously just a rip-off. Which is obviously just a rip-off of The Lion King. I've never seen it, but I assume that's what it is. But for the most part, they just made adaptations of either novels and fairy tales, very similar to Disney. They were obviously trying to capitalize off of Disney's, success with these, even though they were released quite a bit afterwards, all those. But they're still technically just adaptations of that original product. So I don't see them as a mockbuster studio myself. But that's just me. Anyways, you're probably wondering who Jetlag Productions is, or I guess what it is. And let me tell you, you've heard of them. You've heard of them even if you haven't heard of them. Jetlag Productions is the studio that made Cinderella 1994, The Jungle Book 1995, Pocahontas 1994, and The Snow White 1995. You've seen at least one of these films. You have. If you're, like, at least similar to my age or, older. I'm 15, but, I don't remember how I came into possession of these films, but I remember watching specifically the one that made me want to research into this video more was the adaptation of Cinderella, because there were two songs that live in my head rent-free, and I wanted to figure out where they came from, and I never knew until I just decided to look back to see if I was really imagining that Cinderella movie, or if I actually had seen it, and the songs were in there, and I was like, oh my gosh, the tune to these songs has been in my head for years, and I never knew where they came from, and here they are. So, happy days. But let's have some more background on Jetlag Production. So Jetlag Productions was an American film studio, as I said earlier, who mostly made adaptations of fairy tales and novels for the American market. But most of the actual animation content was animated in Japan by a Japanese company. I think it was like KKC&D or something like that. But there are also some South Korean companies who also animated for that company. And they were distributed direct to VHS by a company known as GoodTimes Entertainment, I think it was, or the GoodTimes Corporation, something like that. And they were put under the GoodTimes name. Now, GoodTimes had previously worked with a film studio called Golden Studios. I think, no, it was Golden Films. They worked with a studio called Golden Films, who also produced very similar adaptations. Maybe I'll do a video on that, but all I know is that they made this blonde The Little Mermaid, and that's the one I actually remembered, and I thought that Jetlag Productions had made that too, but they made their own line of all this stuff. Yes. And when DVD came around, GoodTimes had distributed Jetlag Productions as direct-to-video as well, and that's how I found them. I think if I'm remembering correctly, we were in like a Marshall's or a Ross, and we saw these because they had like a film rack, like a tiny one that was like maybe that big, that wide and yay tall. I don't know, but couple films there, and I remember getting a naughty, like, you know, naughty. I forget what country. I think it's Sweden who animates naughty, or maybe Finland. I don't know. But I got a naughty DVD, and my sister got this pack of DVDs. I think it was a release that they had. I have it in my notes. Let me look. Children's Classics. That's what it was called. I think Golden Films called it something else, like something. But this was the Children's Classics collection that had all these films in there, and we watched them. And to be honest, I think that most of Jetlag Productions adaptations are superior to Disney in every way. I just like the pacing, even though at least I know Snow White has narration, which I don't think the 1930s one does. I like the pacing more in these films, and I think the adaptation is better. I haven't seen all of them. I've only seen about 4 of Jetlag Productions films, but I think the straight adaptation from the source material is better. Obviously not one-to-one because they're for children, and the original fairy tales kind of messed up, so that is what it is. Oh, they also worked on The Adventures of He-Man, or The New Adventures of He-Man, I should say. We're gonna start with the films that I watched, and then go to the films I haven't watched, or at least some of them that I thought maybe would be interesting, maybe I'll watch them sometime. We're gonna start with The Adventures of Pocahontas, Indian Princess, or something like that. It was released in 1994, and unlike Disney's Pocahontas, which I think was released a few years prior, or maybe even after, whatever, it's much better at displaying the actual life of Pocahontas. I'm not sure if it's one-to-one, because I don't know enough history to tell you that, but I know that it's at least better because Pocahontas is actually like 12 years old, when in the Disney one she's like a full adult, so it's at least better in that aspect. She also doesn't fall in love with John Smith. I guess they have an agreement. I don't know. It's been a while since I've watched it. But I know that it's better in displaying the actual life of Pocahontas, because it's just, she's the correct age, and she's actually conversing with, you know, the British people, you know, instead of, you know, trying to have smoochy time with one of them. She's just like, let's help them, or something like that. I don't remember. But that's basically all I have to say about that one. I don't really have to say much about any of them except for Cinderella, which maybe I'll get to that one last. I think I'll do that one last. We'll save that one for last. Next, we're going to talk about The Jungle Book, released in 1995. Now, I've never read the short story Mowgli by something Kipling. I forgot his first name, but he's the original writer of what became The Jungle Book. I've never read that story, so I don't know how accurate this one is to the source material, but I do know there are a few differences from Disney's. I know in this one he's raised by a pack of wolves, and like he has a wolf mom, a wolf dad, and he has to fight the tiger, and he has to decide whether he's going to live with the humans or the animals, which I'm pretty sure also happens in Disney's. I remember he meets a girl, like a human girl. I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen in Disney's, and they like fall in love and stuff. He's like 12. I shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, he meets the panther and the bear. I forget what the bear's name is. And the panther, but the bear's is more funny. The bear's is sillier, so I should remember it. Baloo? I think it's Baloo. I think I remember from Scott the Woz's Disney Infinity segment. Scott the Woz, my inspiration. I don't know which one I prefer, this one over Disney. I'm going to be comparing them, of course, to Disney. I should give them number grades over Disney. I'm going to do that. Hold on. Before I get back into the Jungle Book, I'm going to give, what's it called? Pocahontas a number grade. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, and I'm going to give Disney's a 3 out of 10. I don't know. I don't remember watching it. I don't think I liked it. So 3 out of 10 for Disney's, 8 out of 10 for Jetlag Productions. 1 point to Jetlag Productions. Back to the Jungle Book. I don't know which one I prefer because I don't really care for the Jungle Book Disney version. And this one was always my least favorite of the Jetlag Productions films that my family personally owned. So I think I'm just going to give them both a 6. Middle of the road, 6 for both of them. So next, let's move on to Snow White. Now, this Snow White is less boring than the Disney version, probably because the Disney version was released in like the 30s. I think it was the 30s. Well, we'll say the 30s, which means that it's, of course, has better pacing because it was released in 1995, which is quite a bit of time after the 30s, if I do say so myself. It's obviously going to be better paced, and as I said earlier, it does have narration, which can be a drawback for some people, but I think it's okay. I think it's fine in my opinion. And I like the dwarves better in this version. I think they have better personality. There's no like huge dragon fight like I think there was in the Disney one, but I'm okay without that, to be honest. Overall, I think I like the Jetlag Productions one just a bit more, so I'm gonna give Disney's a 6, and I'll give Jetlag Productions a 7. Point for Jetlag Productions. Now the one that I've been absolutely waiting for, Cinderella 1995. Was it 95? No, Cinderella 1994. So this starts with a song called Dream On Cinderella. Now, I'm gonna play it right now.
Dream on Cinderella, dream the day away, dreaming of a handsome prince to take your heart away.
Tell me you don't know that tune, those lyrics, that sound. That sound is so familiar, isn't it? It's just, everyone knows this film studio, but nobody does at the same time. Everyone knows this film, but doesn't at the same time. It's such a weird, paradoxical kind of thing, and I am all the way here for it. I remember this being very similar to 1950s Cinderella, the Disney version, as they're both, adapted from the same thing, and Disney was pretty faithful in the adaptation. I'm not too sure because I don't really remember Blonde Cinderella. Actually, I do. Wait, no, I'm thinking of Sleeping Beauty. No, I do remember Blonde Cinderella. Yes. I actually don't mind the Disney Cinderella, but I do like this one a lot more just because it's so much more... I have so much more memory of this one, and it's just... it hits you right in the feels. There's also another song that's called When Love Has Gone Away. I'm gonna play it again. Oh no, I'm not again. I'm gonna play this one now.
I've never felt this way before, afloat in a sea of moonbeams. Could this be love, the way that I feel? Where have you been all my life? I've been waiting for someone like you.
And that one's really similar too, don't you think? Like, these two songs have been living in my head rent-free. Not the words, just the tune, because I don't really remember the words. All I remember from Dream on Cinderella is, of course, Dream on Cinderella, dream the day away. And that's all. And I don't even remember any of the words for When Love Has Gone Away. I just remember the tunes. Now I'm forgetting the tune to Love Has Gone On. Okay, you know, I remember it. I just don't remember it right now because I'm talking about it. You understand me. Anyways, I prefer this one a lot more. I like the pacing more in this one. Again, I think these are paced better than the Disney versions. I'm not gonna lie. Also, nostalgia is really coming in clutch here in my ratings because of course I'm gonna rate them more. I'm not more. Of course I'm gonna rate them better than the Disney ones. I didn't spend much time watching the Disney versions of these specific fairy tales. I spent time watching like Beauty and the Beast and Tangled if I was gonna watch something Disney, and I wasn't gonna watch like, what did I watch? Oh, children's television, whichever corner it is, children's television. That's when I talk about stuff I watched as a little wee lad. I didn't really watch Disney stuff. It was all about Nick Jr. and PBS Kids. Disney's version gets a solid 7. I'm gonna give Cinderella a 9.5. I think it is almost perfect, in my opinion. I'm gonna give Jetlag Productions a 9.5. I think it's almost perfect. As for the ones that I didn't personally see or watch, I know there was a Heidi adaptation. Heidi is about a little girl whose father dies, and her mother dies, I think. But her parents are dead. Her parents are dead, and she goes to the mountains of Switzerland, Sweden, one of those. I really can't remember. I'm so sorry, but I cannot remember. And she goes to live with her grandfather in the mountains, and she like gets to be friends with this guy that comes and helps her grandfather. She gets to be friends with this wheelchair girl, and it's just a great story. I remember first discovering Heidi while watching it. It was an adaptation, a 3D animated adaptation that was on Netflix for a little bit. I don't know if it's still on there. Here, if it's still on American Netflix, that's the word. It's yes or no. And it's just such a good story. I've never watched the Jetlag Productions version, but I can imagine it's pretty good, just because it's based off something that I personally think is a pretty good story. It's in and of its own right. So maybe I'll watch it one day. Maybe not. They also did one of Sleeping Beauty. I have never heard of the Sleeping Beauty like original story, but I can imagine it's quite similar to Disney's adaptation. However, Sleeping Beauty is probably my least favorite of the Disney princess stories. So, you should probably never watch it ever. At least in my opinion. Also, Leo the Lion King, King of the Jungle, as I mentioned earlier. I looked up a plot synopsis on IMDb. It's apparently about this guy named Leo, who's a very selfish king, right? But then he gets put in charge of a lion cub, and he has to learn how to be a father, I guess, and be less terrible. Which is technically different from the Lion King, so I guess I lied earlier in this video. My bad. They also did an adaptation of Hercules, which I like the story of the mythical Greek demigod Hercules. If Pocahontas 1994 is anything to go by, it's probably way more accurate to how Hercules actually was. But don't quote me on that because I've never seen it. Now this is the one I'd actually probably watch on my own, just because this is one of the stories that I enjoy the most out of anything Disney has adapted, or like anything that has come to my attention through Disney, and that is Alice in Wonderland. They did an Alice in Wonderland adaptation. Of course, this is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, like the actual original book. Wow, there is some disturbing imagery in here. Damn. I really like Alice in Wonderland. I think it's a very fun and silly story. So I was on a plane recently, and it was a long flight, so they had free like audiobooks and stuff, and this was one of them. So I actually listened to this for the first time before buying it in my destination, and it's a good story. You should actually absolutely buy this book, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, and you should read it, or go and see a play of Alice in Wonderland, or watch the Disney movie, or watch the Jetlag Productions movie, because again, if Pocahontas is anything to go off, it's probably much more closer to the adaptation No, closer to the original than the Disney version will ever try to be. And the original story is just really great. White Rabbit, best character, for real. Mad Hatter, not really. White Rabbit's where it's at. Okay? March Hare too. Two best. Rabbits are the best in the book. Yeah, that's it. Okay, yeah, that's it. That's all I have to talk about for this specific video. If you could walk away from this with anything, it's 1, watch Cinderella 1994, 2, read Alice in Wonderland, and 3, watch the Heidi adaptation on Netflix if it's still there.